Welcome in to Rates and Barrels, the athletic podcast about baseball. I am Chris Welsh, and joining me today with probably the greatest backdrop that you've ever seen that isn't like a Zoom backdrop, of course, is the great Eno from the Trop. I'm telling you, you guys have to go to the YouTube right now because it looks like those fake like Zoom backgrounds where someone puts in like, oh, I'm just going to put the whole baseball stadium. You literally have the whole baseball stadium. I'm watching players walk behind you on the field, you know.
Yeah, it's actually my first time at the Trop, so I think it's actually maybe an underrated place. It's really like bright. I've heard players complain about that in terms of like losing balls in the ceiling, but it's also kind of cool as a fan because it just feels really sort of bright and vibrant without being like 90 degrees and humid. So it's a pretty cool stop on my spring training jaunt here. Was in Cardinals camp a little while back, talking to Tyler O'Neill and Giovanni Gallegos about being slow. he's a pitch clock guy, so we talked a little bit about that and his bullet slider. So today talked to Pete Fairbanks about his incredible stuff plus, and we'll have a little bit more about that later, but also had a little discussion with Drew Rasmussen about his sweepers. So I love spring because you can hit a bunch of camps in a row and people have a little more time, and so it's been fun.
It's a little bit tougher where you're at. Funny enough, you just said Tyler O'Neill. I just saw him yesterday because Team Canada, I was over at Mariners camp. Team Canada was playing Seattle, and I didn't realize that they decided to come do BP over there. And Tyler O'Neill walked out, former Mariner, so he was comfortable with the complex. Freddie Freeman didn't come out, but Tyler O'Neill came out and was like, oh yeah, WBC is going on, which is kind of just a crazy odd thing. But in Florida, there's a lot more traveling. Like I can go to every park, I think, within a 40-minute span. But as I'm told, it is out. I've had multiple players tell me that we're used to be East Coast and come over to West Coast say it is night and day experience coming over here because the travel is so much easier. So you can't really go and see on your jaunt. You can't really lock into everybody, right?
I can't really do multiple camps in one day. Like you can kind of do that in Arizona. It's kind of tough here. But what I have noticed is a little bit of segmentation between the East and West Coast here in Florida, where over where I was earlier in Jupiter, you've got the Astros, the Mets, the Cardinals, I think somebody else, and I think they just play each other a lot. Because when I drove across from West Palm Beach to Fort Myers, it's a long drive. It was like a 3-hour drive. There's not really a highway that does it. And I can't imagine that the Red Sox are going to play the Cardinals a lot this spring. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and that's on the schedule, but probably once, So, and then tough for a rider to kind of do them both. So now that I'm up here, though, you've got Bradenton, Fort Myers, Dunedin, Clearwater, Tampa. So there's a bunch of teams near Tampa, and I hope to have some fun talking to some players over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I was about to say, is there any previews of players that are coming up, or maybe even if you don't have it locked down, are there any wants of what you're going to try to do over the next couple of days?
Well, generally, I'm talking to a lot of guys about sweepers, talking to some hitters about launch angle and strikeouts. I've been working on a piece for about a year about the relationship of launch angle and strikeouts. So that's what I've been sort of generally talking to hitters about. But other topics include the pitch clock and how that's going to affect baseball. Not in terms, I did talk to Gallegos sort of about what it's like on the inside, but try to deal with that. But also just were players resting on purpose to throw harder? And if that was the case, will there be more fatigue, and how will that manifest? So that's an ongoing conversation this spring. I mean,
yeah, is that similar to that thing that was going on with Chris Bassett? Like a week ago? Chris Bassett's velos across the board were down by like 2 to 3 miles per hour, and everybody had a panic. And I think he just kind of said, "Now this is what I want to do." He wanted to keep it down in spring. There's a lot of spring like reactionary stuff from Bassett and all the low velocity stuff to like Dylan Cease getting rocked. Sometimes those things can coincide to these guys not wanting to put it out on the field right now, and we can get some big overreactions. I'm not a big Cease guy. That might not be the case, but I was curious. Is that like what the Bassett thing is?
Well, no, I think I care a little bit less when it's results,
like the 11 runs Cease gave up.
Yeah, I mean, he could have had a start like that in June, and his 10 15 starts before it and after it would have just covered it up, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, people have bad days. That's I'm not so concerned about. But I would say I saw those Bassett comments and I don't quite buy it. I mean, yes, guys are down earlier in spring and there's a ramp up, but the ramp up is usually on the order of 1 to 2 ticks over spring. So
more than 2+ is
I
concerning overall.
notice, and I don't really like. Oh yeah, you did it on purpose. I don't know. Oh
Okay, we
yeah,
got you. We did it on
yeah.
purpose, Chris.
I
We
like
got
that's what I tell my kids. I airballed that shot on purpose.
Oh, it's a good dad move. Maybe it was just a dad move. He was playing with us, so I love it. I'm very much looking forward to all the great stuff. As said, Pete Fairbanks looks like there's a conversation. Gallegos, Tyler O'Neill, great stuff that'll be coming down on the Athletic, which is a great reminder. You guys to come and sign up. Theathletic.com/rates and barrels. $2 a month gets you rocking. And whether it's articles, other great content, Eno has got all of that stuff going
Gonna
on. So
update
make
the
sure you check it
rankings
out.
soon.
Yeah, it's kind of that time. I mean, we're into what do we got? Like probably the next two biggest draft weekends. I would say this weekend, maybe 2 or 3 weekends that are coming up here. Have you finished all your drafts?
No, I think I'm going to join like an NFBC AL auction maybe because I just
Cool.
practiced that with my labor auction this weekend, and so I think I might do that. That might be fun.
You're a madman. Do you think there's going to be a point with the DH, the advent of the DH now, that AL NL leagues will go by the wayside in the next 5 to 10 years? This is just a random thought I just had. Like I know it
No,
was so
because I think
big, but
that
it was.
it's not so much about the difference of the leagues when you do a mono league. It's about really forcing you to know the depth of the player pool and really forcing you to make decisions. One of the things that's I think tough about like sort of 8 and 10 team leagues a lot of times is like, you know, I can just have all stars.
Yeah,
like how
you
many
have everybody.
like real hard decisions are you forced to make? But the deeper you get, the more you have to be like, oh man, I have to skimp on closers or mid-level starters or the outfield or third base. I have to make some really hard decisions here. Otherwise, you know, sort of playing middle of the road doesn't really work. So it's kind of like in basketball or in head to head where you'd be like, the deeper it goes, the more like I gotta punt something. I gotta punt a
Yeah,
category.
my only argument to it is like I felt like AL NL their life the depth thing is right. You're 100% right about that. Like I think it's a fun test for fantasy baseball players. I think people that have played for a long time, understanding the depth and knowing it is there. But part of its usage was about the differences in the league. And that was why people would like to do AL or NL. There's now no different. There's a balanced schedule. There's DH across the board. It's now almost just become like, well, we used to do it, so let's keep doing it. I feel like there's less of a reason for fantasy people, like new people to come in. That's why I'm curious in 5 to 10 years if that's a format that just kind of dies away. Because why would new people want to go play it when there's literally no difference anymore?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely not. It's definitely also not something that I think would be appealing to a first time player.
Yeah.
It's really, it's not even jumping to the Jeep end. It's like, I'm going to jump off the 60-foot cliff instead of like hopping into the pool,
Yeah, like the
So,
person that's listened to their dad for like 20 years be like, NL ball is better because the hitter. That's gone. Like no one's gonna
yeah.
have like why NL and AL are different. It's just a random thought I had when I think because I do this big 16 team AL NL. We call it the AL NL
Oh, so
Masters.
you're
It's
saying it could
crazy.
be replaced by mix, but just like 20 or
Yeah,
30
well, I'm
team
just saying it's just
mixer.
gone. Like the idea of people wanting to solidify, I want to play an NL or an AL only. The differences just make it almost irreverent. It's almost just like I'm playing a football NFC league. Like there are just no differences in the leagues, and I feel like
I
if
guess
there's
so.
one thing
There's
that can go
there's
by the
still
wayside, it's
differences
that.
in the player pool. I mean, for example, if you're looking at starting pitching, the ace pool in the NL is much deeper.
Yeah,
You just goes, you're looking for aces, it goes 10, 12 deep. So that could make you change your strategy. So I think the strategies are different in AL and versus NL. I think they're probably even more elite closers in the NL.
Hater, and then
Diaz,
the AL
Helsley. In the AL, you got Bautista, Presley,
Class A.
Clase. Maybe it's the same.
Yeah,
But
it
you know
just
what you there are differences in the player pool, and that, you know, I think that's strategy. Anything that forces you to consider different strategies, I think makes the game better. The fewer strategies there are to win, the worse the game is, I think. I mean, that's I think relevant for regular baseball too. One of this cool things about these new rules is it kind of creates the idea that maybe a go-go team, like a real, like, you know, we're going to steal bases all the time team. Maybe that could be a more viable strategy with the bases and the things the way they are. And, you know, the one thing that might be going away is like a team like the Cardinals, you know, betting on contact and infield defense. Does that go away, or, you know, like, does that work in a anti-shift environment? So this, you know, there's always a give and take with new rules.
Yeah, and I think it makes you a better player, surprisingly, if when you play NL or AL only. But I definitely think if there was one format that would be on the chopping block, it would be that. Just a side point. As you go by and listen to the episode, by the way, Eno is not only at the trop but in the press box. So who knows? Maybe we'll get some awesome writers that'll walk by and get a side interview. But there might be a little bit of people hanging around, and we almost worried because you had this amazing shot, but the internet was shoddy. But you were able to move down in a press box into a better spot, and the internet is good, so we're rocking. So just everybody,
can you hear the episode? Can you hear the like warm up music?
A little bit. Like there's little tiny things. It's actually really good. It's very, very good.
Sometimes it's really loud. Like you know.
Well, I got like this documentary style tour, like where Eno he's like, all right, hold on. And Eno just walks through the whole in the back, and I'm seeing people, and the internet's going, and it was really loud as people are going, but you found this amazing spot, and luckily it's not bad at all. So, and then the episode today, we're planning to talk about some of the news that is going on, and Stuff Plus is out there, and we're going to be talking about that at the back end, which is going to be very cool. Just got released today, so strap in for that. But the big piece of news that really does have like an ADP effect, and I'm really dying to hear what you have to say, because I've talked to multiple people about this, and I've kind of settled on where I'm going to move him. Carlos Rodón is a big, massive injury where he is going to start the season on the IL. He underwent an MRI on Wednesday, and it showed a mild strained, which essentially it was like this superficial forearm muscle issue. Now, I watched an interview, where he was super dismissive of it. Super dismissive. He was like, hey, listen, if this was September or October, I'm playing, no big deal. I don't want to, one of his quotes was like, I don't want to be good until the All-Star break. I want to be good the whole season. So it's very precautionary. Going in with an arm issue and the IL is the scariest thing a pitcher can do, yet he is massively dismissive about it. I want to first get your take on the injury itself, and then we're going to talk about the ramifications, what it is for fantasy, because I think most people are in agreement that this has to be not a free fall, but a pretty big fall.
Yeah. Again, like, you just signed a deal and you're on a new team, and yes, there is the pressure to be like, let's make sure he's healthy through the course of this contract, the course of the season, and that's more important than starting on day one. At the same time, most people prefer not to draft a pitcher who's currently injured. And that's why I managed to get Tyler Glasnow with like the 200th pick in TGFBI. Wow. Because nobody really wants to be like, okay, I'm going to take him, but I can't play him for a while. So he has to go really far down, I think. And I think where I have him, so I originally targeted right around where I have Clayton Kershaw, sort of 34th. He's got a 144 inning projection, the 3 ERA and 27% strikeout rate. But I had about 170 innings for Carlos Rodón before, and how many are you going to really dock him for this? So I docked him to about 150, and I was like, well, okay, he's going to have more innings than Kershaw still, probably, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to have more strikeouts than Kershaw. He's got a projected 32% strikeout rate, and our model says he's going to have a 2.89 ERA. So I think where it will get hard for me is maybe around Framber Valdez or Luis Severino, which I have 25 and 26. So I think Carlos Rodón drops to sort of Blake Snellish level. 25-24. And that would, for example, for Blake Snell, I have 156 innings, a 3.18 ERA, and a 31% strikeout rate. So Rodón belongs ahead of him. And that's sort of where I have it right now.
That's hilarious, by the way, that you're mentioning all of these guys, because the consensus we started with was it's around the mid-20s. I settled in with Rodón right behind Blake Snell, but it's the same exact thing. Like I have to update my numbers here, but I want to say that I put Rodón at 27, and I have Blake Snell at 26 right now. So that's exactly the move that I made, and it's significant. And my overall, that pushed him right at the 100 marker. Like that was kind of where I had those guys. I do know in drafts that Blake Snell is going a little bit higher. I actually pulled up NFBC Draft Champions March 1st on, which has about 7 drafts in it.
But doesn't really have the Rodón injury in it.
Doesn't, though. And that was kind of the sneak. Actually, here's an ironic thing. Blake Snell's going at 114 in those. In the overall Draft Champions, what was this right here? The overall Draft Champions, Rodón was around 30, something like that. No, I'm sorry, 42. And since March 1st, it's 31. So Rodón has not updated. And by the way, I had it mixed up. Snell was 105 since March. That the 112 was the long term
before.
Yeah. So if you want to have a relative range, I think that's where Rodón goes. Here's another fascinating. Who would you rather have, Rodón or Joe Musgrove? Joe Musgrove coming back from the toe injury, going to miss a couple starts. They might miss the exact same amount of starts. Just one was dropping something on your toe, and the other is an arm issue.
I also have a fairly significant difference in projections, with Musgrove only having about a 25% strikeout rate and a 3.3 ERA. I have Rodón probably ahead of Musgrove. I do have Musgrove a little bit ahead in innings, maybe 10, 15 more innings. It's a little bit less of an injury. But with the difference in talent, I mean, Rodón is the only guy I have with a sub-3 ERA underneath Justin Verlander at 9. So if you did something where maybe you got Brandon Woodruff or Sandy Alcantara early, and you felt like I've got bulk and I'm doing good, and then you skip out on the early number 2s, you could maybe take Rodón as a late number 2, and maybe Snell too as a late number 2, and maybe get some really tasty stats out of that. But it could end up being 450, not 450, that would be too much. It could be 350 innings in the end of sub-3 ERA if you paired Sandy Alcantara with Carlos Rodón.
Yeah, your model then beats any of the projections that are out there. They're playing it safe, very, very safe, though, because Rodón is at a sub-2.9 ERA 2 straight years, and every projection system has him over 3. ATC has got him at 316 as an aggregate.
Well, that was something that happened when we used stuff in Location Plus to power our projections. We had a larger spread in BABIP, and we had some higher-end projected strikeout rates than most of the models, so Rodón is a stuffist.
He is definitely a stuffist too, and we're going to be talking about this here in just a little bit, some stuff that you guys can now actually see. And interestingly enough, he had the 16th best stuff Carlos Rodón does according to your model, and I believe that's the same with the fastball, was also 16th. So big fastball and the stuff plus, and overall stuff plus 16th. And there's a couple of really fun.
A little bit Strider-esque too. Just had the column this week about whether or not Strider can make it work with 2 pitches, and Rodón is largely a 2-pitch guy, and it's. I think it's a little bit more common with these engineered pitches where you're like, well, what if he has a top 20 fastball and a top 20 slider? Why should he throw a suboptimal changeup that he can't really locate, or a curveball?
I think the positive, though, coming out of this just is that you're not saying, hey, I'm done. This forearm injury isn't something that has taken him off the board. Because I know some people will be like, all right, cool, I'm going to rank him here, but he's not really draftable in my eyes. You're still comfortable because
you had to assume almost that Rodón would have an injury this year. So now you're having it earlier. It's the same thing with Tyler Glasnow. I'm not totally all out because, I wasn't putting Tyler Glass now down for 200 innings, and even with the oblique, he could still put up the sort of 130 to 150 that I thought he could. So, this is interesting though. Also from a team standpoint, the New York Yankees just got hit by a whirlwind of injuries. I mean, with Frankie Montas maybe not out for the full season, but probably, and with that sort of stuff coming, even if he comes back, maybe in a relief stance. Well, that was a guy you had slotted in for starting pitcher innings. Now you're losing Rodón for the beginning of the season. That means Clark Schmidt and Domingo Germán make this rotation. In one case, I'm happy about that. Clark Schmidt is a guy that I'm excited about, and I think he's draftable in almost every league.
Really?
Yeah, because he's got upside. If it's the kind of league where there are certain leagues where like you can't make free agent moves, or you make very infrequent free agent moves, that makes it a little bit harder because I'm not sure how long he'll be in the rotation.
Yeah.
He could be the first guy out when Rodón comes back. But most leagues, to start the year, to have a young guy who I think has a lot of upside, a good pitch mix. He's now throwing a cutter. He wasn't throwing before. Now he's kind of cutter, sinker, sweeper. It's this new type of pitcher that's out there, and he's got good velo, and he's got actually a decent four seam. So it's a pretty good package. He has good command. I think he could have a mid-3s ERA with a good strikeout rate. And it's okay. Yeah, sign me up for that. And yes, I don't know about the innings all year. So if it's like you have to have innings all year, then maybe take Kyle Gibson, get your dang innings all year, But, in terms of like starting the season, yeah, Clark Schmidt is I don't know where am I going to put him?
Yeah, I'm very curious about that. Saying he's draftable in like all formats. We're gonna go as low as 12 team. I mean, is that
well? Our model spits out a 3.6 ERA with a 26% strikeout rate in 121 innings. I wonder if you should be pushing that innings number now, right? Let's push it to 135 innings or something, because he was already going to get 75 to 100 just as a normal six starter, and now you got these injuries. So I'm pushing it to 135 innings, which means Aaron Savali, I've only got down for 130 innings. He's got a 3.89 projected ERA, 23% strikeout rate. He's at 70, so above 70. Garrett Whitlock, I've got for 130 innings, 3.57 ERA. Yeah, Garrett Whitlock.
Okay, that's 60, the range.
65, 66. That's where he's sitting right now before I officially put in my. But, Freddie Peralta, I only have down for 130 innings and a 33.4 ERA, and he's at 51. So if you want a range, I would say low 50s to mid 60s.
That's a pretty good sell. That's a pretty good sell, and I think
isn't that most leagues? It seems like most leagues.
No, that's 100% most leagues. If you're getting into that, that's a back end rotation guy. Last year, 8 pitchers had 200 innings pitched. How many do you think are going to hit that this year?
I think I made a bold prediction last year that nobody would, so 8 was too much for me. But I keep thinking that they will have a year where there's no 200s. One thing is that bold prediction was sort of born out of a couple of the craziest years we've ever had as a human race, maybe.
Yeah. We're out of that. That's why I asked, because we're kind of 3 years out of that space.
And now 8. So I think we'll at least have 5 this year. The pitch clock is an interesting thing, though. It's a little bit more of this chaos that we keep putting on ourselves. So that's fatigue, that's injury, that's what I mean. Like that could lead to a lot of guys having to take a 2-week blow at least to just be like, turn the clock off for 2 weeks, please. I need to rest.
Well, that's why I asked you the question, because it's like if we're going to go under this number, I am actually very worried about the pitch clock causing injuries and these guys are trying to do it in practices and spring training on the backfields and stuff, but this is not norm of what they do in any of their normal sessions. So just changing that overall over time in the season, I'm worried it's going to cause more. If we
might be the year to like bet on young pitchers who've been used to doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's like, if we're going to be under significantly, should we be valuing guys at 130 and 140 innings just a tad bit more, because that might be closer to the baseline than it would be if you were like, we're going to have 12 pitchers. Now that we're out of COVID, and now that guys have a couple years back under their belts, we can get back over 200. If that's not the case, maybe 140 is a much better number. Kind of make me go back to like that Grayson Rodriguez thing we talked about, or people trying to say, Spencer Strider, if he only gets 150, like those guys should all maybe boost that just a tiny bit.
It's relevant to the DeGrom discussion.
Thank
you're
you.
like, if DeGrom gets to 140, he's probably the best pitcher in baseball by WAR at least, and probably by fantasy values. So, 140 doesn't look that bad anymore.
Yeah, if we've only got 5 guys at 200, and a lot of guys are sitting in the 170s, like 140 is not crazy off. And
he might out-K most of those guys still.
I think he would K. I mean, 140 innings at Jacob DeGrom and 200 innings at Sandy Alcantara. Who has more strikeouts?
Who's going to have more strikeouts? I think DeGrom might. So, but the Yankees in general just got hit so hard. I mean, Harrison Bader's hurt too. So, I would love to have Clark Schmidt, on the pitching side. I'm like, Clark Schmidt, that's who I want. I want him more than Domingo Germán. I'm into Clark Schmidt. That's an easy call. But with Bader being out, I don't have an easy call because I'd love to be able to say Anthony Volpe's making this team now. But I don't know why I would say that. The only reason I would say Anthony Volpe is making this team now is that Oswaldo Cabrera is making the team. He probably was, but now he has to because he can play the outfield, right? And so I guess you have Hicks going over to centers more, and your regular starting lineup with Bader out would be Hicks in center, Cabrera in left, Judge and Stanton kind of doing right field and DH. I think that still leaves room for Volpe, but I don't know who the backup outfielder is that Volpe is kind of pushing, or, and this is really important. If you see Volpe or Oswaldo Peraza with an outfielder's glove on in the next week, that's really relevant because that changes how likely they are to make the team. Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, who's the backup outfielder now? If it's Esteban Florial, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? And I don't really see it. Maybe Rafael Ortega, makes this team. I'm not that interested in him either, but I'm really interested if Volpe starts playing in the outfield.
I'm a very big Anthony Volpe guy. And I didn't care about the struggles as much. He struggled for 2 months. He really came back in spring. He's been showing off the power. It's really good speed. Defense might be like a notch behind Oswald Peraza, who looks like he is locked to make this team. If the word came out, and I don't know why they would do this, but this is what you'd be listening for. If somehow they're like, hey, we wanted to play Stanton a little bit more in left field and get him off the DH, that would perk my ears up because then you could put Gleyber Torres over at second base and you could have Peraza and Volpe play the infield, and then you'd have Cabrera.
Donaldson, you maybe have Donaldson DH more.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, exactly. You could do something
or
like
LeMahieu and Donaldson play some DH.
Those would kind of perk my ears up a little bit. I know Peter Gammons just said yesterday he put his stamp, which someone must have told him, got a stamp of he thinks Volpe was the one. The only difference is they have to make a move off the 40-man. They don't have to do that with Peraza. They do have to make a move off with Volpe, but we can't discount the value of the pick. Have you talked to any team or any team personnel about how they actually value players breaking camp and vying for that pick? Have you talked to any teams about that? Because I know we all just presume. I'm just curious if teams actually are sitting back being like, we need to play out for this extra first-round pick.
No, I have. That's not. I don't think. Not from what I'm considering. I have talked to some people about how they make their decisions and how difficult it is. And generally, they're just frustrated that it has to be a small sample, and they're trying to make this really big decision for and it's usually like 2 or 3 guys, right? There's the 2 or 3 bubble guys, but there's this huge decision for 2 or 3 bubble guys, and it might matter what they do in 2 or 3 weeks. And that's just poor timing, and I don't know how to do it any different. I mean, it's just how it works. You have to set your roster at the end of spring, and you actually give them a fair amount of time with 5 to 6 weeks, but sometimes it ends up just being the end of camp where now that Bader's hurt, we have to make a decision next 2 or 3 weeks. If Ortega goes nuts, maybe he just makes the roster because there has to be a roster move, I think, for him too.
Yeah, I think because he's an NRI.
He's an NRI, so they're like staring at a roster move no matter what. And if Volpe had played more outfield, then I would say he's making this team. I do think no matter what, it's slightly more likely that Anthony Volpe makes his team now.
Okay, that's an extra little plus here. Yankees have been hit. The Astros have also been dealing with stuff. Astros general manager Dana Brown said Wednesday that Jordan Alvarez was pain-free and going to resume swinging a bat today as we're recording this, or Saturday, which is great news. You know, in multiple drafts, it was the industry stuff, it was TGFBI, and my tout draft and hold. I happened to be right in that window where Alvarez was hurt and everyone was terrified. And I happened to also have a back end pick. TGFBI had the 15th pick and he kept falling. And I took him in both spots. Do you think that was a window where someone like myself was able to take advantage and got that bonus where we would never get Alvarez? Or are you still concerned overall about this injury that he's had, even though he's going to be coming back this weekend?
I had some pushback on Twitter where I've talked about his knees, and someone said he had the knee surgery. He's fine. Even if he's fine in the short term, any surgery has long-term implications. There was some research that Michael Salfino was putting out on Twitter about how this, and I know Alvarez's wasn't an ACL, but like, for example, guys who come back from ACLs in football, generally, if they were above average, they become average. If they were elite, they become above average. Like, you drop a tier based on these sort of implications of the implications of that surgery. There's long-term implications. The site in which you had the surgery is not as strong as it was before. It's cleaner than it was in the short term before, but like, a place where there was no surgery is going to be better off. You know what I mean? Like, in this case, we don't have surgery. It's a hand thing. In this case, we don't even know what it was. God. It's like the NHL things. He's out tonight with an upper torso injury.
That's a pretty baseball move, though. All right, so then the question is, like, are you comfortable drafting Alvarez
in this general area?
Yeah, tell me where it hurts. Just point.
Yeah, somewhere over there.
But like, are you comfortable drafting him now with this news, or is he still?
He was never off my list. He was never off my list. Even the only sort of caveats I ever had with him is he doesn't steal bases, and I'm not sure I'm comfortable putting him down for like 660 plate appearances. But he does so much in the plate appearances he does have that, and it's not. I don't think we're in a Stanton, mid-career Stanton situation yet. I'm not putting him there. And he's ready to swing away, and he's going to be ready for the opening day, because you only need about 2 to 3 weeks as a hitter. So he's fine. He's good. I never really had him off my list. I don't know if I move him much above. Like, who would you rather, Mookie Betts or Alvarez?
Mookie Betts, hands down. I had Mookie Betts. I'm probably a little bit higher than most on Mookie.
But that's a decision people make around Alvarez.
Well, you know what I think also changed here. So from March 1st on, in those draft champions, I still have this up, he was ADP 15. That is where he fell down to. Where, well, prior to that, he was, somewhere, I think, actually I have it right here. It was 10. He was 10 before that. So he moved down 5 spots, which is significant in the first round. That's a third of the first round in the 15th.
I would rather have him than Corbin Burns, I think.
I agree. Now, here's one that happened, though, was Vladimir Guerrero also gets hurt. He's out of the WBC because of this knee injury. He just started working out yesterday. There's another guy, so you can't justify Vlad over him right now. They're both dealing with something. I thought the inadvertent.
They both fall too much, and by projections, they're both like top 5 type players. But we're all like, we need steals my first round pick. I can't take that guy.
Well, Vlad's projections have been absurd, but like, the inadvertent thing that happened was Freddie Freeman has just kind of jumped. It seems like he's the guy that's jumped over. Freddie was going 14 prior to all this, and he's moved up to 12, which is 1 spot lower than Vlad, but higher than Alvarez.
He steals bases, and he's going to benefit from the shift. So
Freddie, Vlad, Alvarez. How do you order that?
I've got Vlad ahead.
Knee injuries,
but it might be Vlad, Freddie, Alvarez.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, Vlad did get out there. That's the thing that you want. He was out working on the field, working first base drills, I believe, yesterday in camp. So that's
I think he'll be ready for opening day too. And Freddie steals bases, so that's kind of fun. And then of the 3, I think Freddie might have the best batting average. Jordan will have the best home run total, and Vlad might have the best combination of stolen bases, home runs, and batting average, because Vladdy steals bases.
You can get a couple in there. I mean, Freeman's going to he's going to double up both Vlad and Alvarez combined.
Maybe. Vlad
By
had
the
8
way,
last year.
yesterday in camp, when Freddie Freeman was in the cage, he was wearing an all red Canada like tracksuit while he was hitting. And it's an incredible moment was when they got done, they got on a golf cart, Larry Walker in the same matching red Canada tracksuit gets in the driver's seat. Freddie sits next to him, and then Tyler O'Neill, who was showing off the guns with just probably a small whatever.
Was he wearing one of those belly shirts? Have you seen those belly shirts he wears? Was he wearing a belly shirt?
It was the tightest shirt you've ever seen in your life.
Is there any other player in baseball who wears a belly shirt?
The only other athlete I can think of is Ezekiel Elliott, who has the belly.
Yeah, well, okay, so those are some nice stomachs there.
I guess,
the two of them.
but the visual of the two red Canada tracksuits in the golf cart with Tyler O'Neill holding on to the back and looking at everybody with the shirt out, like it was a wild thing to see. It was like, welcome to the WBC. All right, one other big injury, and then we'll blow through the other little quick ones, and then I want to talk about the release of Stuff Plus on Fangraphs. Is Andrew Painter. You want to talk about? I gave you.
I don't know if this is breaking news or if this is the news you're referring to, but I might have to do. We have a. Is this the one you're referring to? Top Phillies prospect Andrew Painter. It's from Jeff.eth. Andrew Painter has a tear in his UCL. Is that what you were looking at?
No. I was not gonna look. I was gonna talk about the mystery, and now we have some definitive.
He has a tear in his UCL. The team announces he will sit out for a month and then start a light throwing program to see if he can pitch through it. That's
Jeff Passan,
horrible news.
That's Jeff.
I'd almost rather they shut him down and had the surgery because although if he had the surgery, he would miss all this year. And
probably half
maybe start next year. And so I think even with a month, you still have enough leeway. Well, if with a month he would miss all of this year, and then just miss the first month or so of spring training next year. So it might be okay to wait a month and see if he can pitch through it. There have been guys who pitched through it. Kenta Maeda pitched through it. He got surgery in the end. Masahiro Tanaka pitched through it. He did not get the surgery. But
did Rodón have a UCL issue that he didn't get surgery for, or was that a different one?
That might be true. Then there were also all the Angels that tried to pitch through it, and most of them got surgery in the end.
So this was scary because Andrew Painter, probably arguably the top pitching prospect in baseball, him or Christian Rodriguez. Phillies were talking about him breaking camp, not even at 20 years old. He has this arm injury. We don't get any information. They sit back. I saw last night that the word was they're waiting for a second opinion. And that's where I got really worried about that. Second opinion usually means bad. I don't recall the last time a second opinion came back and they're like, no, bud, you're good. Let's give pounds. No, it's always bad news. And I didn't even see this because this actually
seems like they're often looking for better news.
Yeah, I guess, someone to tell us. But yeah, Jeff Passan reported a tear in his UCL. So, I mean, how do you approach that? Do you think a couple players have, I guess, come back from this? Do you think this is the approach with a young pitcher like this and he can recover?
Is that Jeff Passan's handle now?
Yeah, it's a
joke because he got hacked and they were trying to sell Ethereum through his account.
Yeah. I think it's a happy anniversary. I think 1 year today he got hacked because it's Jeff.eth.
Okay.
Jeff Passan's handle, which is funny. I saw him.
I'm glad I just reported him as Jeff.eth.
I know. Well, when you said that, I'm pretty sure that's Passan. I actually saw him at Rangers camp last week. He has phenomenal hair in person. I will tell everybody.
Yeah.
So you see a UCL tear. What type of fear, do you actually think you were giving okay, these guys have recovered, but do you want any part of that right now? Not even a redraft. It's more like in a bigger dynasty.
This is now a keeper dynasty question. I think the only situation where I want him is if I'm in a rebuilding situation and now he's cheaper to get.
And also, I
don't usually trade for pitchers anyway, even if I'm rebuilding. That's usually a capper situation where I try to build my lineup, as I'm rebuilding and then start trading for pitching when I'm there. So I wouldn't normally trade for pitching prospect anyway. But in this case, it might be the price drives so low that you get him for I don't know, who would you like, a Yandy Diaz, somebody like if it's deep enough league, right? Where you're just like, here's a guy that can help you this year, OBP, 20 team league. Maybe I'm going too low.
Yeah, what's the acronym, like TIN stand for whatever? It's like there's no
So,
such
yeah,
thing.
there is no such thing as a pitching prospect.
And this just
Like, what's the type of a veteran bat that you would trade for Painter right now? What if it cost more than a Yandy? What if it was?
Oh, it'll cost way more than in a Dynasty Keeper League. Andrew Painter. Here's the funny thing.
But even if he's like heading towards surgery,
here's the funny thing. He's not going to have much of a discount at all in Dynasty Keeper. It's not. What will happen is he's got to be owned by the team that is in a win now mode. If you were to try to go acquire Andrew Painter, you're just not going to get the big discount. The argument I always have with prospects too, when prospects get hurt in their prospect land, it doesn't really change a whole bunch. This is a little different because if he broke camp and he had a full season, that's kind of gone. But let's just say Andrew Painter didn't. How much did this set him back? Maybe a year. In a prospect world, that's not the people. You can kind of stomach some of that. So I think he went from untouchable to he's acquirable. But like,
about a Jake McCarthy.
You're the craziest person I know. I was literally going to say that name. That is the name I was going to throw out to you. I swear to God, I was going to say that name. McCarthy was the one that I think that might be interesting if a win now team had. Maybe you throw a little Jake McCarthy their way. I think that could work. Or
especially because there's the steals aspect. I mean, like Rowdy Tellez is around the same number, around the same, like established, younger-ish. Jorge Polanco.
If you were not a win now team, would you move Logan Gilbert? I was going to say Kershaw, but I feel like that would be an instant yes. Would you move like a Logan Gilbert for an Andrew Painter?
No, man.
Is it too much?
What if Andrew Painter is Logan Gilbert?
That could happen. All right. Would you move? These are really tough. Joe Ryan. I feel like Joe Ryan is a line.
That's interesting. Joe Ryan has added a sweeper and could break out this year. Right now, he's kind of a one-pitch pitcher, the fastball. He doesn't have any of the velo that Painter does. Painter has much more upside. I think even with a sweeper, Ryan is kind of like a number 2, number 3. Now you're getting closer.
Okay, last one. Lucas Giolito.
Yeah, especially if I'm not winning now.
Are you buying into the changes for him, like the weight loss and the change in his in the way he's throwing his arm angle?
I mean, he's worked an arm angle change before to great success, but those things make me really nervous when you start talking about changing your body as a pitcher and changing your arm angle. Now I start thinking, well, maybe it works for you, but I also think your injury risk is way higher.
Yeah. Okay. That's huge news. That's breaking for us. I did not see that as we started up from Jeff.eth. Happy anniversary, Jeff. The other two quick, or actually the other last one was the Marlins picked up Yuli Gurriel. So Yuli Gurriel now with the Marlins first base. That is going to affect, I'm guessing, Garrett Cooper. It looks like that would be an effect to his value because DH is set to be Jorge Soler. If Soler was pushed to the outfield, this really is going to kill my Brian De La Cruz, who I have in the athletic draft guide as one of the sleepers I love. He's Teoscar light to me with those big hard hit numbers. So we're going to have to watch how it goes. But Yuli Gurriel jumps in and kind of becomes an intriguing NL-only first baseman, don't you think,
Yeah, it's interesting that Cooper is projected to be, 15% better than league average with his bat and is a solid player. And they're projecting him for more plate appearances he's ever had. And I wonder how much of what he's done has been affected by his splits. So I'm checking that right now before I say something wrong, because he's a righty. He's been better against righties. Of course, he has a reverse split, but you wouldn't project a reverse split. And Gurriel is also a righty.
Yeah, and I'll also point out, like roster resource, maybe they haven't updated, but boy, did they update quick. They don't have Gurriel on that starting lineup. They still have Garrett Cooper starting as the first baseman, hitting fourth. So just with
let's build a bench. Build a bench. If you're building a bench, you got to have a backup shortstop. That is maybe Jose Iglesias, who just signed with the team.
He did just sign a deal. Yep. And John Birdie would kind of probably fill the other spots. I mean, Iglesias can play the middle. Birdie could maybe play there, but also plays your
I think
backup outfield.
Birdie seems like he's making the team. So you got Birdie Iglesias, you got Nick Fortes as backup catcher. That's 3 of your 4 spots.
And then what you're leaving on the table is Jesus Sanchez, who they have Jesus Sanchez or Brian De La Cruz. They have Brian De La Cruz starting. Sanchez is on the bench. Here is the caveat, though. Sanchez is a lefty, and Birdie, Iglesias, and Fortes are all righties.
And Gurriel and Cooper are righties.
So I
have Sanchez as the breakout candidate of all of these names. You know what I mean? So
Brian De La Cruz.
With the fact that Gurriel and Cooper are both righties, I kind of think it's Gurriel or Cooper.
We'll have to see that. So I still like Cooper is one of my favorite like later drafted first basemen. But Yuli Gurriel does make a ton of contact. I like the idea if this team is going to be running a lot in front of him, but he hasn't even been slotted in here yet. Maybe they just haven't made the moves. But Yuli Gurriel, one of those late spring signings. Plenty of other news going out. WBC is going to push a lot of information, hopefully not have any injuries or anything
hopefully
like
not
that.
all injuries, yeah.
That's what we're like.
Been fun to watch. I watched Yu Chang tie it up for Taipei today. He was pumped and the stadium was rocking. And you know, I'm not a jersey guy. I don't think I have a single jersey, but that Newt Bar Japan jersey, it's sexy.
You got to pick it up.
It's a tight jersey. Plus the name is awesome. 2 O's and 2 A's. And like the combination of that name with that nationality, it's just hilarious and funny and great. And then he's such a great personality that it just all ties it together. That's one of the first jerseys I'm like, maybe I want that one.
And he's my literal like biggest breakout guy, biggest drafted player this year. I'm tied with him. Athletic, can we get some Newt Bar jerseys over to Eno and I, please? Can we please do that?
I did finally get him in TGFBI. I was pretty excited about that. I needed speed, and I jumped him off his ADP like 30 or 40 points, maybe 30 points, and felt good about it afterwards.
Everywhere I can. I've been citing that great interview you did by just also to plug. Go back and watch. I was watching it just the other day. I rewatched listening to you and Newt Bar right on the YouTube channel. I like seeing him react to things you said. It's a great interview where he talks about, you know, what he did with driveline work last year and how it's improved and what he's worked on this year. It's just a killer interview that you guys should make sure to go check out. The last little bit here, you know, I wanted to talk about this. Stuff Plus has officially been released on Fangraphs, and you know you've talked a whole lot about it. People can go and check it out, and I got to tell you, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal in that you know we can look at not just the stuff, the location, the pitch plus, but there is like fastball plus. We can go and take a look at it. So talk to me about the release on that and how people should be staring at it and approaching it and utilizing it.
Yeah, you know, there's a really good glossary piece over at Fangraphs too that'll help you understand some of the spread, because you know, Stuff Plus and Location Plus and Pitching Plus, they center at 100 per pitch, and so then when you start summing it up by pitcher, they have different spreads. So, for example, one standard deviation of Stuff Plus is 12, whereas one standard deviation of Location Plus is 3 points. And so we have all that described in the glossary, and you can kind of see that. But, you know, it's fun. Like right now I have over at Fangraphs, I've got a minimum 20 pitches, and I'm looking at fastball Stuff Plus, and I'm doing it for starters. And one thing that really pops out for me is Dustin May has the 5th best four-seam fastball Stuff Plus. You know, it came in 30 innings. That's enough of a sample to say he had a really good four-seam fastball last year. That's part of why I'm picking him as a breakout player. But you can also, you know, temper your expectations sometimes, because you see, for example, Corbin Burns has the 12th best fastball Stuff Plus. Well, we know he didn't work when he threw that fastball, and look at his Location Plus, 79. It is like easily the worst. And then you look at his sample, 0.2 percentage thrown. So like, you know, you have to kind of think about the sample of everything. But and you have to sometimes look at the location, because if it's a really bad location, Dylan Cease, for example, 6th best Stuff Plus, 94 Location Plus. That's really bad. Or Yusei Kikuchi. Everyone's having him as a breakout pitcher this spring, because he does look pretty good. The velo is there. He has a 108 four-seam fastball stuff plus. He has a 91 location on that pitch, and it's pushed the pitching plus on the pitch below average. And I'm not sure that he's as much of a breakout pick as people are saying, because when I watch him, I just see a guy who has no command of the four seam. And when you have no command of the four seam, that puts so much pressure on your command on your secondaries. And if you want to just see, what how his command of his secondaries is, now you can kind of do it in a sortable way. Another guy who's a really big fastball, no command of, is Ryan Pepio. He's 27th in four seam fastball stuff plus and has a 92 location plus. If you were worried about Roansy Contreras' command, 106 stuff plus on the fastball, 97 location plus. So, there are some custom date ranges here. I haven't played with them. Let me see if I can do a custom date range on the pitch modeling stuff, because if you can, that's really fun. So now I'm looking
you
at.
Could do like the back half of the year, do like the final 2 months or something like that.
Oh wait, I still have the minimum IP. Let me see if I don't do minimum IP. Doesn't look like it's working yet. There's going to be, this is just getting it up on the site right now. If people do want custom reports, I'm still going to be writing about this at Fangraphs. I can do some custom stuff. We'll have some spring training stuff reports that come out that won't necessarily be on Fangraphs. So there'll still be a lot of value to the extra reporting I can do on top of it, the extra fun I can have on top of it. But just having this is something I've wanted for everybody. To have the ability to just go out there and sort this stuff for themselves and have fun with it. The Google Doc really was something that upset me.
Understandably so, as it always does. I want to ask you about one other guy real quick, and then there's another part of this modeling that you and I were talking about off air. But someone that just stands out to me. He's been a draft target of mine, and hopefully I'm looking at the same stuff you are, because I'm under just Stuff Plus, and then I sorted by Stuff Plus. And on the Stuff Plus fastball as well is Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton's just a big standout guy where, as far as what I'm looking at, he had under Stuff Plus the 15th best overall, and on fastball it was 16 with a 116, which just stands out. Just overall Stuff Plus and fastball Stuff Plus. He's just one of those just names who's littered between Christian Javier and Shane McClanahan and Yu Darvish and Corbin Burns, and it's like in the middle there is Charlie Morton with that post 100 ADP is just such a fun target.
Yeah, why am I not getting that? What are your settings right now?
I am on leaderboards, pitching, and starters. My numbers were a little different than what you were saying.
So your minimum IP is qualified.
No, 20. I also did your 20 qualified minimum innings pitched. I followed you.
And you're sorting by Stuff Plus fastball. Oh, are you in the first part?
Fastball plus, and then I clicked on Stuff Plus on the meter down there.
So Stuff Plus fastball. Well, there's going to be some kinks. I'm not seeing Morton. That's strange.
Yeah, like when you just go straight into there, and if you're just on standard Stuff Plus and then you sort by Stuff Plus, Charlie Morton 15 with a 116 Stuff Plus.
I mean, I do believe in that. The overall Stuff Plus. If you just sort by Stuff Plus, like, come on, Morton, where are you? There you are, 15th. Yeah, I do see him there.
And he's literally between Javier and Rodón.
Yeah, but the way I look at it, when I look across, I see a 93 Stuff Plus on the fastball. It's a 151 Stuff Plus curveball. So Charlie Morton to me is in that sort of Adam Wainwright territory, where he's got that elite breaking ball and he's still got it. And that's a decent way to age, as we've seen from Wainwright. Now, as long as he's 93, 94, I think Morton can be, a really good pick. I'm not sure about Adam Wainwright. He's pumping 86s right now. And I'm a little bit worried that that's too slow.
Man, this is a fun tool, by the way. I'm looking here so this will actually set up here. Zach Gallen jumps out to me, 15th Stuff Plus, or 16th Stuff Plus fastball at 113. He has a 128 on, I believe this is a sinker.
Yeah, look at
But
that. He has positive stuff plus on all of his pitches, and the change is 99th. I did want to
that
say
is what
that,
I was
like,
going to now. I was taking you to the changeup because you were saying that there's some modeling stuff with the changeup specifically, and that's the only thing that he doesn't just blow our brains out here of like crazy numbers.
changeups are really hard to model. Harry Pavlidis did a really good job of sort of pointing out that you can either have a straight change where the velo differential is big, or you can have a power change where the velo differential is small and the movement differential is big. And if you ever want to read some really cool research, he has What Makes a Changeup Good on Baseball Prospectus. That's part of my journey into all of this. But hopefully that's, in our model. We've also been able to add seam shifted wake to get a sense of like, when do the seams make the changeup better. And I think Logan Webb, who's third in starter stuff plus on the changeup, I think that's a seam shifted wake pitch. You've got Corbin Burns, but it's a really interesting list because you also have players where you're like, I don't know if I believe this. So Adrian Martinez from Oakland has the second best changeup stuff plus. Chris Flexen is fourth. Bo Brisky from the Tigers is eighth. It's just a slightly weird list where you're like not 100% sure. But also Tyler Wells is 18th and Ross Stripling is first. And, there are a lot of changeups on here where you're like, yes, that is a very good changeup. So I would just say that if you like a player like Zach Gallen and the changeup results are there and our model says it's a below average changeup, maybe trust the results a little bit more. Yeah. Or if a guy comes up like a Brian Bayo, and you're wondering, another nice thing about the Fangraphs thing is you can actually just do a custom player list where you just put the player name in and then you can just see all his numbers across the board. And this says, 96 on the fastball, 115 on the slider, 76 stuff plus on the changeup, except his changeup had amazing results. And wasn't he as a prospect coming up? Wasn't that the changeup? Was Brian Bayo's changeup, right?
Yeah.
So I would say take that with a grain of salt. If you like Brian Bayo, you still like Brian Bayo. That's fine. And then you can kind of, if you wanted to kind of do your own little model where you took changeup stuff plus out and saw who was good without that, you could do that now because you can download things off of Fangraphs. And if you're looking up one player, this is going to update in the morning. If you're going to look up one player, you no longer have to bug me on Twitter. You just go over to Fangraphs and see who, if there's a debut. You do have to wait till the next day because of how the data works. But, I think a lot of like the day after Ricky Tiedemann's debut, you're going to have a lot of Fangraphs traffic on the Stuff Plus page, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And I think is this Stuff plus curve jumps out to me because Dustin May breaks the system with an over 200. And in the top 10 with the Stuff Plus, I'm assuming this is the curve, not a cutter.
And I think this really fits. Like, do this list because then you're like, yep, those are the best curveballs in the game.
Well, and check this out. This is what I like. In the top 10 of the best curveballs, there are only 4 that have an over 100 changeup. That's Dustin May, Charlie Morton, who had the 4th best curve, and
with that splitter,
and the 2nd best changeup of this group, Sandy Alcantara and Julio Urias. So again, if you start pairing groups together when you're looking at this type of stuff, it really makes, again, Morton kind of stand out, and Dustin May, that's like wild numbers, why we get excited about him. With a 121 stuff plus on the fastball as well, he might be the most interesting of all those players. It's really cool. Everyone should go check it out. Go to Fangraphs and just have some fun and stop tweeting at, just
no, always tweet at me. It's fine. It's fine. Good, so. I will have some goodies that won't be on Fangraphs, like spring training stuff plus, minor league stuff plus, maybe some time splits and stuff like that. We did find that, for example, the last 400 pitches of stuff plus can be more predictive sometimes than the full year of stuff plus. So you'll still get pieces from me on The Athletic that about leaders in the last month, spring surgers, that sort of stuff. Like I'm definitely going to have a spring stuff plus surgers piece coming out soon. That's on the board.
Well, make sure you guys go and sign up today, theathletic.com/rates and barrels, $2 a month. It's literally the best deal with incredible stuff on there. You can get the draft kit for your drafts over the next couple of days. My dynasty ranks are up there and tons more. Eno, we did it. The internet held up at the stadium. We're literally at the trop, and it's the best background ever. Like,
Let's go watch some baseball.
Can you see who's back there? Can you see a player or anything like that? I can't.
Let's see if I can give people a little.
Oh, we're doing BP. Look at this. Oh,
yeah, so this is Braves BP we're looking at.
Okay, is Acuna down there? Austin Riley? That's awesome.
I think this is Riley.
Oh, is this Riley?
No.
You know what?
The number's too high.
I said let's pretend. Let's pretend it's Austin Riley.
Who's 17?
We're gonna say Austin Riley. Okay. It's cool. This is the coolest thing. So check out the YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe to it as well. Literally
look also like for a second if you can see like how much is going on. Like they're doing stuff in the outfield. This is a live infield practice off of the BP.
They've got the barriers at first, second, and third, so players can sit back there. They can talk to coaches. There's guys at short. But
they're hitting bungos in between the BP pitches.
Something I've been seeing, I don't see them have out here, but I've seen them have a lot of pitch clocks come out here, especially when they're doing live BP live pitching sessions. This is just normal BP, so.
The pitch clock is definitely part of the training environment now. They're definitely everywhere I'm going. Like they've. I'm seeing pitching coaches lugging the big LED pitch clock that they took out to the live.
What's so funny? Last thing, Brad Hand threw a session the other day over at Salt River, and it was Mike Moustakas' first time, and he came out. I videoed it, and right before, dude comes out, he rolls the big TrackMan piece, and another dude rolls out with this giant LED light, and they went up, they set
15,
it up.
14.
They set the TrackMan, the clock, and then Mike Moustakas proceeded to beat around Brad Hand for a little bit in his practice of trying to make the Rockies roster. So that is spring
training. Where is Moustakas?
He just signed with the Rockies, and that was 2 days ago. He I think it was a minor league deal, and he was very happy about it because he was getting some hits. All team officials were watching him because they wanted to have some competition against Nolan Jones, and he might be a Rockies third baseman if all goes well. Mike Moustakas there, not too shabby, and he was hitting around.
He might be the Rockies second baseman. Are they going to push McMahon? They're going to push McMahon.
I think they said McMahon was going to push to second base and was going to be.
Because McMahon is younger and is a better defender.
Yeah, much better defender. You don't want Mike Moustakas there, and then that leaves Alvarez, Montero, Nolan Jones, and Mike Moustakas. And like I said, all team officials were out watching Moustakas. They had the TrackMan. He was happy about it. So
there's a deep pull for you. I don't know if I'm rushing in 15 teamers yet, but Colorado Rockies third baseman.
Never know. All right, that's going to do it. Eno's got to go out to some games. I'm going to do the same thing. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week for Eno. I'm Welsh. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening.